power outage in Mumbai last year, which lasted for several hours, in fact, for up to 10 to 12 hours in outskirts of the city. It was unusual for the island city, which very rarely sees power outages at all. And soon after, there were reports, included reporting on ET Now, that the state government in Maharashtra was investigating whether there was any mischief behind this power outage. Well, now it seems that's possibly the case. An international paper has reported a report by an organization called Recorded Future from Massachusetts. Now, this organization largely maps the use of cyber warfare by states, by different countries. And this organization and this research firm claims that a company called Group Red Echo, or a group of people called Group Red Echo, were responsible for this power outage that we saw in Mumbai last year. That it was part of a larger attempt of a cyber attack from China, that this Group Red Echo is linked with the Chinese powers that be, and this was happening even as India and China were facing off on the border. Now, the Power Ministry has, in response to these reports, also come in with its own clarifications, saying that there was no impact of any such malware attack and everything is in place. All IPs have been checked, etc. The question, though, is, could this possibly have happened? And are we living in a reality where wars and acts of aggression are not necessarily just on the border, but can also target civilian lives in the sense of hitting out at infrastructure? And this is really a serious concern if it happens to be true. Meanwhile, the Maharashtra government and the power minister at the state, Nitin Raut, has also come out and said that there could be some reality to these claims. So speaking on this very important issue, with me today are Aseem Jakhar, who's the co-founder of Payatu, and Pavan Duggal, who's an advocate at the Supreme Court and a cybersecurity expert. So welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us. Aseem, let me begin by you just explaining what this report says, why it's important, and what it claims has happened.
All right. So let's start with what the report states. So nowhere in the report it says that the outage was caused by a malicious activity. And in fact, they cannot claim that, because somebody who has access to these internal systems or the infrastructure can only look at the or can only do the analysis and then come to a conclusion whether the outage was really caused by the malware or not. The other part, so what they have mentioned in the report is that they claim that 10 of Indian organizations, I think there are around 4 regional load dispatch centers and 2 state load dispatch centers, as well as 2 IPs belonging to NTPC and 2 belonging to Mumbai Port and Chidambara Maritime Port. These are connecting to the infrastructure which they believe is managed by a group of actors called Red Echo, which they think, because of their analysis and correlation, is China-linked threat activity group. That is what the report says.
Okay. Now, Mr. Duggal, of course, international newspapers and those that have picked up the article from there have inferred that this could be linked to what was happening at the border and linked it to the outage in Mumbai. We will need to have more investigations and some clarity on it. But just to get a broad sense from you, that is this the reality of the times that we live in, that countries can utilize such groups of hackers and introduce malware into infrastructure of countries that they're trying to attack?
Unfortunately, this is now the new ground reality. The fact remains is that today's wars are going to be fought not on the battlefield, but using computer systems and the internet per se. India has been subject to a number of these kind of cyber attacks. And it's only now that these attacks, once they start getting exposed in the Western world, does India wake up and try to take it more seriously. Even at the time when the Mumbai outage had happened, I'd mentioned that this could have a direct connection with a cyber attack. But in India, we have this fantastic habit of dismissing everything that comes from within the country, and we will only looking for legitimacy from outside. Now that recorded future has actually said that this is a cyber attack, that's where we are beginning to wake up. But I think as a nation, we are a sitting duck, primarily because we haven't done our homework in place. We are not yet fully prepared for this new ground reality. We have not even taken any steps to really secure our critical information infrastructure. As a beginning, the sitting problem is that India does not have a dedicated cybersecurity law. On top of it, our national cybersecurity policy of 2013 has been a mere paper tiger and has not been able to be effectively implemented. On top of it, the national cybersecurity strategy of 2021 has still not been announced. So in a scenario like this, the nation is in a state of unpreparedness on how to even deal with cybersecurity breaches. Now, these breaches are going to specifically target Indian critical information infrastructure, whether it's power, whether it's energy, whether it's banks, whether it's networks, or the governmental networks per se. But in a scenario like this, I think we need to first wake ourselves from our deep slumber. Unfortunately, Indian nation is in a still deep slumber vis-a-vis cyber security ground realities. Hopefully, this kind of a report, which comes from a New York Times, could actually shake the decision makers in the country that you need to give far more importance to cyber security, specifically of your critical information infrastructure, rather than just providing lip service to the same.
Yeah. The big question is whether there should at least be transparency over what has happened. So let me tell you what Anil Deshmukh, the Home Minister of the state of Maharashtra, where this attack is supposed to have taken place, says. So he says that we can't rule it out. He says there is a possibility of a cyber attack. He goes on to say that regarding the 12th October electricity outage issue, we had asked Cyber Cell to investigate. In the report, they've also said that cyber sabotage can't be ruled out. Now, Aseem, my question is that this is all in the realm of possibility. But is this something that can fairly easily happen, and does India have her defenses up?
All right. Okay. So, can it happen? Absolutely, yes. Did it happen? I think once the analysis is done, once you push the government to come out with a report on clearly stating what happened to the IPs that were communicating to the malicious servers or command and control servers. I think there needs to be a bit of transparency in what is the process being followed, what has been identified. For example, now, as Mr. Duggal also mentioned, it has come from Recorded Future, a Western company. I think this should have been a proactive step taken by the Indian government in terms of listing these IPs. And I'm pretty sure that these IPs would have been blocked, as mentioned by the Ministry of Power's report that says that CERT and NCIPC had already informed about the threat. How easy it is, it depends on the state of the infrastructure. And I think it's time that our critical infrastructure needs an overhaul. There are a lot of legacy systems already in place in these critical infrastructure, and they're just ticking time bomb. And because they're easy to access, they're easy to exploit. So I think what we need to look at from the infrastructure perspective is not just putting makeup. At the end of the day, if the makeup is removed, your real self comes out, right? So instead of putting protection at the edge, I think there needs to be processes and policies placed in terms of how you handle these equipment, and the equipment really needs to be refreshed in terms of getting new equipment which has protections in place, and then you have policies which people will follow, which the systems and machines will follow, and then you have perimeter protection to safeguard against external threat.
What are the implications of actually admitting that this is what happened. Mr. Duggal, the more I read about this, that this is fairly prevalent. It's been happening all across the world. There are reports about cyber attacks in the United States, which they say that Russia has mounted. Then they had counterattacks, which was injecting malware and, similar modus operandi, really targeting infrastructural installations. Do you think there is a need for transparency as well? Most governments around the world choose not to talk about this or not to admit something has happened in the first place.
Well, there's an urgent, crying need for having transparency in this place, but it logically does not appear to be in the scheme of things for sovereign governments. Because the moment you admit that there's a cybersecurity breach, it suddenly tends to show the government of the relevant land in negative light. Certainly, questions are being asked as to what was the government doing in order to prevent such cybersecurity breaches. But I think that's a mindset which is of a medieval age. You will have to come up with a new mindset where you realize that everybody is under attack. So if we get attacked, there's nothing new. Yeah, the better way is to own it up. Yes, we have been attacked. And then let's try to learn from the experiences of Estonia. Estonia got attacked with a massive cyber attack in 2007, and that was from Russian hackers, and their economy was badly hit. They learned their lessons. And today they're the world leaders in cybersecurity, primarily because of the transparency, because of their proactive approach. So I think let's not be in that mindset that, we are holier than thou and that we can never be attacked. We will always be attacked. Everybody in this world is there to be attacked by state and non-state actors. So if some kind of a cybersecurity breach happens, we should be the first ones to say, yes, this has happened. Yes, we were now trying to do what we can do. Let's try to plug in the loopholes rather than just trying to put it under the carpet and say, look, everything is hunky-dory, nothing is wrong. We cannot have the approach of a pigeon closing its eyes to the cat, because the cat is in any case going to eat the pigeon. So the new ground realities are that these state and non-state actors are out to disrupt the growth of any nation. And India particularly is on their target. Why? Because now India has come up very strongly in its economic recovery. And after COVID-19, it's one of the countries where other countries are looking forward to how the Indian model is going to work on economic recovery. So a lot of state and non-state actors are interested to disrupt this in any manner whatsoever. The very fact that India has had tensions with China in the border has only been a kind of a catalyst in taking the appropriate steps in this direction. I think what's currently happening is that we as a nation don't even have a dedicated cyber army, which can actually protect Indian sovereign interests in cyberspace on a 24/7 basis. I think very quickly we'll have to start not just allocating the importance that cyberspace deserves, but also allocating appropriate resources in the budgets. For example, this budget of 2021 had virtually no specific allocations on cybersecurity. This at a time when Indian sovereign interests are being attacked left, right, and center. So I think our governance priorities need to change. We need to specifically focus on cybersecurity, because if we don't focus on that, our sovereignty could be at stake or could be prejudicially impacted in the coming time.
One can only hope and believe that there is a cyber army out there. There is a cyber security system. Maybe it has not been shared publicly, but one can only hope that we are preparing. In the middle of this, another set of very worrying reports by a news agency today saying that a group related to China called APT10, also known as Stone Panda, is a Chinese hacking group which has identified gaps and vulnerabilities and is trying to attack the two vaccine makers, Bharat Biotech and Serum Institute of India. So that's a report that has come out today as well. So Aseem, give us a sense of what would be the vulnerable areas that we need to really bolster. Clearly, your electric grid is one. All your databases which have citizen identities would be another. And of course, medical facilities in the middle of COVID-19 that are producing vaccines.
Yes. I think the healthcare sector as of now is not considered as part of a critical infrastructure in India. I think that really needs to change, because with the advancing technology, we are seeing a lot of automation and these small devices. So there's a lot of technology advancement happening in healthcare, financial, and critical infrastructures like industrial, where there's a lot of automation. But the problem is that these so-called embedded devices or systems have are not as secure as a traditional server or a desktop machine. And these are now operating within the virtual world as well as interfacing with the physical world, which means that tomorrow we'll have these devices operating on human body, going inside human body, and whatnot. So I think there is a very urgent need for defining security for these new systems as well, plus identifying the critical infrastructures, more or less specifically from economy to also damage to life and property. And healthcare, I think medical is one of those sectors. And since these use partly traditional technology, partly new technology, there are standard ways to get inside, like we've already been discussed about the power systems. Same are the techniques that you would use to get into any kind of IT infrastructure. What you do there depends on what the infrastructure is all about. So definitely that is possible. And I think we need to now shift focus to what is really critical for our nation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today and explaining this, Aseem Jakhar and Pavan Duggal. It is a very worrying trend that has come to the fore. It's a subject that gets swept under the carpet very often, but we need to sit up and take notice. First, we need to know for sure if indeed there is an intent to attack the infrastructure of a country, and if India is in the radar through malware attacks, and if so, how are we going to push back?